Hi everybody, welcome to another stream. I'm back after a few weeks of silence, I guess. Just gotta send out this message here. Okay, and yeah, I'm here, and you're here. That's great. That is great. I hope you're all doing good. I hope you're all having a good time. Let me bring that camera over here. I was on vacation. Not the whole time though. I've been to Singapore, but only 5 days. But it was great. So yeah, I hope you're all good. And I figured, now that I wasn't gone the entire time. I just had various things going on. A lot of work-related stuff, and yeah, in general, lots of stuff going on. But finally, I found time for another stream, and I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy for you all to join it. So yeah, the plan for today is pretty much what we have here. Just want to hang out a bit, chat a bit. I mean, there's a lot going on all the time with AI and stuff, and also outside of AI, of course. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. And maybe if we have time for it, also dive into React Native because I feel like doing it, and also because a new Expo version has been released on March 2nd, and I only had a brief look at it to see what changed, if it has any big impact on my course. It doesn't, as far as I can tell. It's mostly about Expo Router, which I'm not using, but yeah, that is the plan. So, yeah, lots of folks joining. That's great. Hi, Max. I recently bought your React book. Which of your React courses follows along with your book the best? I guess that would be my my React the Complete Guide course. This one. Link is acad.link/react.js. That course really covers React in depth and is probably a good addition to the book. And hi, Apollo G. Happy you finished the TypeScript course. I hope it was helpful. And yeah, hi everybody who tuned in. Update the React Native course from scratch, please. It's very outdated. I don't know. React Native still is pretty much the same as it was back then. So obviously, Expo. We've seen new Expo versions. You could use Expo Router instead of React Navigation, but yeah. So regarding those course updates, Node.js, React Native, not planned right now, to be very honest. And if I will update those programming courses, which at some point I very likely will, of course, they will look different, because programming obviously is different nowadays. So that's also a reason why there haven't been programming course updates recently. Not because I'll never update them again, but just because things work differently, and I'm still figuring out how to best teach stuff in the future, because obviously I want to do that in a good way that's helpful. And with all these changes, there is a lot to consider. Is it good to learn different things like JavaScript, Python, mobile? I think nowadays it's more important than ever to be a generalist, to have like a broad portfolio of skills, if you want to call it like this. But obviously nowadays that also involves AI. And I think it's important that you can prove that you're able to quickly adapt and work with different technologies. I've said it before in other streams, but just to kind of answer the question here, I think you should be able to be an expert in one or two technologies, but you, at the same time, you must be able to quickly adapt to others with help of AI. Yeah. More sections about local large language models in the AI agents course. Yeah, the problem is I would love to do that too, because I'm a big fan of local AI models for a couple of reasons. Obviously, they're free. You're not sending your data to OpenAI. That's a big win, or to other providers. The problem with local large language models is that they are good for certain tasks. If you have like a piece of text and you want to summarize that, they can typically do that quite well. But if you want to build AI agents, run agentic loops with those local models, they quickly reach their limits. That's why I don't really cover them in my agents course, because I was not able to really make them work in a decent way. And I think, as far as I can tell, it's the same experience for other people too. I heard Peter Steinberger, the creator of OpenClaw, say that you can't really use open, locally running models with OpenClaw because they're just not capable enough. Yet, maybe that will change. We've seen so much development when it comes to these open models. It's very possible that they will be much more capable in the future. And of course, it also depends on the hardware you have. If you have like 500 gigabytes of RAM, of video RAM, that means, for one, that you're rich, and it also means that you can run more capable models, of course. Yeah, so many thanks for all the nice messages. Reading them all, not replying to all, but I do read them all. So thank you so much. In this AI era, what do you recommend? Learn the basics? Yeah, so I think, and I've said that before too in other streams, but it's important to me. I think it's far too easy to skip the basics, to not build a good foundation, and just let AI do it all, right? And I mean, it's super easy to fall into the trap of letting AI do everything and of not understanding anything it does. And I think it's more important than ever to have a solid foundation, to have good fundamentals, to understand what AI does, so that you can steer AI in the right direction. I mean, the days are over, for me at least, and I think in general, where you write all the code by hand. And it doesn't matter if you're writing like 50% or 70 or 90% of the code with AI. I think ultimately that number will get higher and higher. I'm not sure if it will reach 100% for all cases for all applications, but what I don't see changing, what certainly hasn't changed for me, is that you want to steer AI, that you want to be able to clearly control what gets built, which building blocks, which architecture, and that you're able to understand what the AI built, that you're able to understand the code it gave you. And for that, of course, you need good basics, a strong foundation. So yeah, I think those basics still are important, and maybe, I'm not sure if they're more important than ever, but they're still important, super important. What is my opinion on OpenClaw? Mixed. I mean, OpenClaw is kind of like a super interesting, exciting technology. The idea of having a personal assistant that can do a bunch of stuff for you. But at the same time, I will say, security is an issue. And in order to get the most out of OpenClaw, you need to give it broad access to your emails, to maybe some, excuse me, to some of your accounts. And I personally don't feel very comfortable doing that. So what I did, I have my own OpenClaw assistant up and running, and I gave it his own email address, not my account, my main account, so that I can send emails to it where I wanted to act upon. And then, so I got many tiny things like that going on. And I'm still trying to figure out where I can get the most use out of OpenClaw. Now, I will say, and I released a video about it today, OpenClaw, under the hood, is powered by the Pi coding agent. And that's a really interesting agent. And I'm using that indeed a lot outside of coding projects on my system to quickly tweak some configuration, do something in the terminal, give me a one-off script I need. And I could use Claude Code or Codex as well. I just like this agent for its minimalism and extensibility, and I cover all that in my video today. But that is something I'm using in addition to OpenClaw for certain tasks. But again, I'm still figuring out that stuff. So yeah, that's my opinion on OpenClaw. Not the shortest one, I will admit. If you're starting mobile development, would you go with Flutter or React Native? Either is good. Both are well maintained. Both are popular. I personally tend to use React Native more for the single reason that over the last years and so on, I've worked so much with React that this is, well, yeah, that React Native is just a natural fit, but not because it's strictly better or because Flutter is bad or anything like that. Not at all. Is there a problem with local AI in that there's a heavy hardware investment that could become obsolete over time? I mean, the problem with local AI is that you need quite capable hardware for the bigger models, obviously. There is a sweet spot, I think, where I can run models like Gemma 3, which is a bit older, admittedly, but I can run the Gemma 3 models by Google with Ollama or LM Studio. I can run the biggest one, the 27 billion parameters model. I can run that on my M1 MacBook Pro, which is, 4 years old. And this model is quite good for stuff like summarizing text. So there is this sweet spot, but I don't see the point in investing in super expensive hardware just to run a model locally that is still not as good as the latest models by OpenAI. When I can instead just pay for the usage or get a subscription, which is cheaper for my use. But I'm sure there are use cases or privacy concerns could, of course, be a reason. And of course, as I said, open models will likely get better. So then that may change, of course. Would you say that vibe coding is useful in the first steps of learning? Yeah, I think vibe coding can be useful. When learning something, because you quickly have something to see. The question just is, do you then take the next step and dive deeper into it? Are you actually interested in understanding what was built for you? Or do you just keep on going and you keep on pulling the slot machine and you hope that things work out well? So that's the question. It's basically up to you. And with AI, it's more difficult than ever to now that's the wrong way of saying it. But I think with AI, you have a tool that could be very helpful for learning, but it's super easy to not use it for that, right? So it's super easy to just keep on going because you get results and they work and it looks good and you keep on going. And at some point, chances are you end up in a situation where maybe it doesn't work anymore. Maybe some feature isn't implemented the way you want it to. Maybe some bug just can't be solved by AI. And then you don't know what to do, but you didn't stop earlier to understand what was going on. So yeah, AI could be useful, vibe coding could be useful for learning, but you have to be disciplined, I guess. Do you have to review code from coworkers who are vibe coding, and what's your feeling about it? Kind of, indeed, kind of. I don't have a lot of coworkers, but I'm also not alone in this company. And indeed, AI has enabled some people to work on projects, even though they previously didn't have a lot of programming knowledge. Now, not talking about people that don't know anything about coding. I don't have those. But yeah, I do get contributions by people that don't know a lot about programming, and I have to review that code. But again, we have clear guidelines. They're not starting at zero. The code base, some rules, skills, and so on are set up by me. So then combined with AI and a lot of communication, those reviews aren't too bad. Yeah, so it does work, I guess, kind of. But then again, it's mostly cosmetic stuff they're working on, mostly styling with rules already in place, as I said. So yeah, that works okay-ish. What is my view on the recent report published by Anthropic, where they are telling the impact on jobs and where white-collar jobs are mostly affected? Yeah, that's an interesting one. I saw the diagram. So I guess you're referring to probably this article. Hello, will you open it up? Yeah, this article. I saw it. And I mean, it's interesting. And you have to say one thing about Anthropic, I guess. Dario Amodei, their CEO, has not been super off regarding his predictions. Now, it depends on what you read into those predictions. But the truth is, AI is writing a lot of code these days. Now, I do not think that this means that this is the same as AI replaces X amount of developers, but it does write a decent amount of code. So yeah, Anthropic or Dario was right regarding some predictions there. So whenever they publish something, it's probably worth taking a look. And I did see that article, I did see that diagram. And on first sight, to me, it makes sense. I will say that. Obviously, computer and math, that is where we are. And AI has an impact there. Hard to argue with that. Again, I think the thing we all don't know is, of course, how will our role and how will a lot of these jobs evolve in the future? If there's one thing we saw in the past, it's, of course, that whenever we had new technologies, we found new work, we found new jobs. Will it be different this time? I don't know, but I don't think so. So we don't know how that will evolve. But yeah, obviously there is a big impact of AI, and AI can do a lot of what we're doing these days. Again, what I also said before in other streams, it may be able to do a lot of the things we do today. The question is if it gets to 100%. Because if AI is only able to do like 90% of what humans do, it can't replace them. And it can't even replace 90% of humans, because that's not how that works. It means it will always need human oversight. But of course, it means humans can do more with AI, which is kind of where we are at right now. And the question is, can it get to the point where it can fully replace us? And we don't know, obviously. But yeah, I think I agree here for the most part. I mean, it looks fairly reasonable that like business and finance, if you look at the data analysts or jobs like that, obviously AI can help there too. I'm using it a lot for we have some data analytics tasks in our company too, and I'm using AI for that too, and that works quite well. So I see that. So yeah, I guess that's my short summary on that diagram here specifically. Yeah. How do I stand out as a junior front-end developer in 2026? Yeah, I mean, I get that question in pretty much every stream, and I fully understand why, because it is tough out there. It is difficult. And unfortunately, I can only reply what I always reply, I guess. To stand out, obviously, you must be able to use AI. You must be able to prove to employers that you know how to use AI. And with that, I mean that you are capable of efficiently using it, that you are good at context engineering, that you know how to leverage these tools. And that is what I mean. And that is simply a skill you can develop over time. You will need a portfolio, but to be honest, I don't know how important that is. If I were hiring somebody, I definitely would want to see some work. But of course, nowadays it's easier than ever to produce projects with AI. Obviously, I can dive into them and judge their quality, but it's easy to like have a huge portfolio And for some developers, they may just look at it and say, okay, that's enough. I don't know. It depends on the on the employer. So yeah, a portfolio matters, but for me personally, it would be more important to see somebody work with AI and show me that he's capable of using it efficiently. And then the other thing, which I also mentioned before, which I think is important, unfortunately, to stand out, is be active on social media, have a podcast, anything like that. So, and I know I've said it before, you want to get a job, you don't want to become an influencer, but I think in today's market, which is still not great for juniors or for developers in general, any way of standing out, and that could be a YouTube channel, that could be a social media presence, that could be well-written articles on LinkedIn, anything like that can help in addition. And of course, always networking, contacts, always matters. That was the case before AI, and it's still the case today, of course. Experts say 2028 is the year where white-collar jobs start depleting badly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know which article specifically you're referring to. If that's the Anthropic article you mean, I guess nobody can realistically say what's going to happen, because the jobs we know today changing does not mean that they're going away. It could be, but again, in the past we've typically seen that new technologies mean new jobs. So yeah, I don't care too much about that, to be honest, because nobody can look into the future. What is true, obviously, is that we have a lot of change coming our way, and it's already there. And especially for developers, yeah, you have to adapt. And you have to accept the fact that coding changed, and writing code by hand is not the main thing anymore. Not saying that it's necessarily zero. You still might write some code by hand, and I know there are people that they're saying they're more efficient when writing code by hand, and I get all these points, but even if you just look at it purely from an employer perspective, they will want developers that use these tools. So yeah, that has changed. And if you don't adapt, if you don't embrace that change, finding a job will be difficult. If you're self-employed, if you're doing your own thing, that is all, of course, totally different. It may also be different for some companies, but for the vast majority, they will want that skill. They want to see you use AI. With 3 years career gap, is it good to start full stack web development or data analytics or AI or data science? So I mean, you should start whatever you're interested in. And that can still be web development. Again, looks different than it did like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, but still development. In my opinion, still a solid choice, AI-enabled development. But whatever you're interested in. I mean, I wouldn't get into AI, whatever that means. I guess it means build AI models just because AI is the hyped thing these days. Because building AI models is a market, a job market that's not necessarily as large as you might think at first. I mean, there are obviously the top companies. Getting into those will be super, super hard. And outside of there, I'm not sure how much more interesting that market is. Being someone who's able to use AI for whatever that is, for whatever job that is, could be cybersecurity, could be development, data analyst, that is a totally different story. And there I would simply do what you find interesting. Node.js versus Fast API in 2026. So Fast API is a Python a framework in the end. I personally am not a Python developer, so I have no experience with it, and I personally always pick Node.js, or specifically I pick Bun for most of my projects. But that's just my personal preference, and it's not like I could say that Fast API is bad or anything like that. I'm just not a Python developer. I know Python, but I've always worked with Node.js and Bun and so on for the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. Yeah. I think integrating AI within existing code bases with questionable patterns and giving it business knowledge is difficult. Yeah, how can we use AI well within existing code bases? The big problem with AI is, of course, that if you throw it at a code base, it kind of continues what it sees there. And it also always just sees like a small part of the code base, of course. I mean, there is the limited context window, so obviously it just sees a part of that file, maybe this file. And therefore, if you throw it at a code base, it doesn't see the whole code base, and it absolutely does generally tend to continue what it sees there in the snippets it sees. So if there are bad patterns or anything like that in there, it will probably continue with it. In addition, right now, and that may change, but right now, all these AI models have a tendency, in my experience, to just add and add and add more code, and they're super hesitant to refactor and reduce the amount of code. And that's again where the experience as a developer comes in. I'm not just saying that, I mean it. It's your job to steer it and to kind of tell it how to approach a certain problem, how to refactor something, that something should be deleted. That is exactly what I mean. And if we're talking about big code bases, that becomes obviously even more important, that you have fine-grained changes, that you have very specific changes where you have a clear plan in mind, and then you can point AI at that. And that's, of course, in addition to maybe having a useful agents MD file. And I know there are studies that tell us that agents MD files aren't useful. I'm still using them. To me, they feel useful, but only for very general instructions. Having comments in place can help AI, but yeah, it is a lot of work to get AI to behave the way you want it to behave. It's a lot of upfront work and a lot of continuous work. And anything but that is vibe coding, which, yeah, can have questionable or mixed results in my experience. As someone learning coding from your courses, how should I use AI to enhance my learning progress? I would use it to ask follow-up questions, to have it give you project ideas, to have it evaluate code you wrote or you had AI generate. So that's, of course, a bit tricky. As I said before, you want to kind of find the right balance in using AI. But yeah, for diving deeper, AI is awesome. If something's not clear, AI is awesome because it's like your personal tutor that sits next to you, that is very patient and that can help you at exactly the problems you are facing. Web security is very important and deserves a complete course. Is it possible to make it? I agree. Web security is very important. And a course on web security is something I've considered, I guess, since, I don't know. I think the first time I planned such a course was in 2020. And then there was always something that was more important or that got in the way. And nowadays, of course, I'm trying my best to keep up with the very quick development in the AI world to create useful courses on the tools we got there. Got lots of ideas on courses that should help you apply and use AI correctly. And then we had the discussion before about course updates. I'm rethinking how does a programming course look like in the future. So that's essentially the reason why, since my days also only have 24 hours, that course doesn't exist. I would love to do it. There are so many courses I would love to do. Realistically, a web security course is not coming out anytime soon because there's just so much other stuff going on, unfortunately. I think the most important skill is still problem solving, and I think AI sometimes creates a shortcut which impacts my problem solving ability. Yeah. It 100% is. Problem solving is extremely important. I've said it before, by the way, in other videos. For me as a developer, I always liked the process of writing code. I liked the flow state you could get into. That was always fun. And it's a bit sad that this was taken away by AI. And I know there are people that say, it was always about building, and AI makes building easier than ever, and you can enter a new kind of flow state with AI, and that may all be true, but still doesn't change. I personally liked writing code. Point. You can't argue with that because I just liked that. So, yeah, problem solving was always important and is even more important with AI. So that's not going anywhere. But I will say I'm a bit sad that the writing code part is not super relevant anymore. And yeah, you could still do it. It just feels a bit weird and inefficient if you're doing it professionally. At least it does for me. How can I improve my AI usage in projects? Yeah. Again, that is something I want to do a course on. I got so much to share in that. How do I improve? I mean, using AI efficiently is about so many things. It's about planning. It's about splitting big problems into smaller problems. It's about establishing patterns. It's about setting up skills. It's about context. I mean, skills for the AI. It's about context engineering. It's about code reviews. It's a lot about systems design, about deciding which building blocks to use to architect an application. It's about ensuring proper testing and quality assurance. And AI is great at writing tests. It's unfortunately also great at writing tests that pass and that don't necessarily test what they should test. You can get it to do that, but again, that takes us back to the context engineering, to the prompting part. So it's really all these things. And to break it, or to sum it up, I think using AI efficiently is about not trusting it. And that's the hard part, because it's super easy to work on a project and then you ask AI to do something, you make a plan, you spend some time planning, it does what you ask it to do, and you don't really look at what it did because, yeah, okay, now you're ready to work on the next feature, to throw the next prompt at it. And I've been there, we've probably all been there. But spending that time to check if you're actually happy with what you got is really important. And that includes taking a look at the tests it wrote. You want to do that, at least for the crucial parts. It's time well invested. You want, before jumping into the next feature, tell AI, yeah, this implementation is off. That's not how it should be. We should do X and Y and delete this and do that. That is, I guess, how you use AI efficiently, at least for me. But I've said it before, it's super hard to find that balance. But that is exactly the part. Yeah, I mean, if something's difficult, that is an opportunity to be better than the others, right? So that is how I would say you use it efficiently. Will web development have a good future, and why? Web development, just like the last 10 years or 20 years, I don't know, is the one thing where you can easily reach the entire world. So web development will, per definition, always be important. Now, it's absolutely possible that how we interact with some applications will change. We may have a future where we're interacting with agents, something like that. Absolutely possible. Right now, to me, it looks very much like, for one, we will still have websites and the web, but B, from what I can see, I mean, OpenAI has this, what's it called? Is it called Chat UI? ChatKit? I don't know. They have this thing where you can build embeddable widgets. I'm not sure if that is the thing I mean, but the idea is that when you interact with agents, they may build user interfaces on the fly. So you may be using ChatGPT, or maybe you're using OpenClaw in I don't know, in Telegram or whatever. One possible future is that if you're asking to search for hotels, it generates a user interface on the fly that presents those hotels in a nice way. To be precise, it's not random what it generates there. Instead, it's based on what the service it's interacting with, Booking, for example, booking.com, for example, what they defined for this interface. And guess what? That is still web development to some degree. We're still talking about building blocks, widgets that are HTML, CSS, JavaScript potentially. The backend, what happens on a server, that is still what's part of web development today. Interacting with a database, queuing, scheduling, sending emails, processing tasks. So these building blocks, I don't see how they would not matter anymore. You could, of course, say that's all written by agents, by AI, but that takes us back to the start. You can believe that. Nobody can look into the future. I don't believe in that. I think our jobs will evolve, and therefore, yeah, the parts that make up web development will still matter. It may look different, and what we do may look different, but they still matter. That's my take on that. MERN-Stack versus Next.js, which has better job demand? I would say Next.js has a better job demand this year. But over the course of you, always great work. Yeah, thank you so much. And again, so many nice messages. I read them all. Thank you all so much. Means a lot to me. It really does. Thank you so much. Started recently your 100 days of code web development bootcamp for someone new in the area. What should be the expectations to enter the market? Yeah, so as I said, the job market is really difficult. And I shared before, and this recording will stay live so you can watch it later if you missed the beginning, what I think will be important for finding jobs. I'm an experienced dev, been using AI to code and it seems to work well. How much should I focus on learning context and specific tooling? Is that necessary to be effective? You mean specific AI tooling? For one, you definitely don't need to learn all. I think it makes sense to spend some time understanding what you can do with Codex, with Claude Code, whatever you're using. Just so that you're able to leverage all the features these tools give you, that you're able to, for example, set up skills, that you're not missing anything these tools have that might be useful to you. And that also means you might want to stay updated with how these tools evolve, because certain things, you may be doing certain things in a way that's inefficient. I'll give you an example real quick. So let's say you're working on a project, and I get one set up for today, I think, or did I not create it? Oh, okay. Let's say I have a React Native project. Okay, this is an empty project, so maybe it's not the best example in the world, but you will see my point. So, for example, if you're using Codex, the CLI or the desktop app, doesn't matter, you may use AI for code reviews. So you could say something like, review the code in this project, blah, blah, blah. You can do that, and you might want to do that if you have very specific requirements, but there also is a /review command. And it's things like that, where you can also pass your custom instructions. It's things like that, which I mean, where you might want to stay updated. Not super complex, but a lot of tiny things like that. That being said, you definitely don't need to know all these tools, and it's not like you need to configure or tweak a bunch of things to be able to use them. But there are certain things that are nice to know. Is a Playwright course at all possible in the future? It's not a priority right now, to be honest. Especially since AI does quite well at using Playwright. It would, if anything, it would probably be a course where I focus more on how to leverage Playwright with AI. But then again, what I said earlier, I'm still figuring out how to teach a lot of the topics I taught in the past in a way that's useful in a world where AI is a big thing. So that's what I'm figuring out, or trying to figure out in general. What month do you believe TanStack Start will be released finally? Yeah, so I mean, I know it's still release candidate. I think they're still working on the React server components stuff. Not sure why the website won't load. Probably once that's done, I guess. But I will say I'm using TanStack Start in production already. I mean, this very application here, maxeddraw.com, which I'm using for my drawings, which you can use for free locally, is built with TanStack Start, and I had no problems there. So with that, let's actually, since I got some questions here about React Native, let's switch over to some React Native stuff. And the main reason here is that a new Expo router version was dropped. Did we also get a new Expo SDK version? I wonder. When was Expo SDK 55 released? In February, yeah. And therefore, I wanted to dive back into it to see what's new, what changed, and play around a bit with it, and maybe dive into better auth, how to set up authentication with the React Native app. Yeah, because I've not done a lot of mobile app development over the last months, to be honest. And I want to get back into it. And I also want to release an actual app. Not today, but yeah, so for that, I want to get back into it. So Expo SDK 55 was released, and also the Expo router, where is it? Expo router version 55. And in case you don't know, Expo router is essentially a file-based router, which, as far as I know, is built on top of React Navigation. React Navigation is what I teach in my React Native course. It is also still my favorite, though I have to say it's been a half a year or so since I last used Expo router, and I'm just not a huge fan of file-based routing. So for that reason, I'm pretty much still always using React Navigation in all the tiny internal apps and stuff I built. But yeah, I'm happy to give Expo router another try. And of course, in general, a new version of the SDK has been released. No update. I'm not working on any update right now for the React Native course. Also because we shouldn't need one. A new Expo version does not mean that the way you build React Native apps suddenly changed drastically. So what you learn in the course still applies there. And as I said before, just to repeat it, it's not like I won't ever update any courses again. I plan on doing that. I'm just still figuring out how a good programming course looks like in the future, where you don't write all the code anymore by hand. Okay, so I don't know what you mean with JSON or XML, but yeah. So Expo SDK 55. What we have here is, so for one, okay, they got a revamped default project template. Uses native tabs, refresh design, a new folder structure. Okay. Dropped support for the legacy architecture. That's, of course, an internal thing. Long story short, React Native switched to a totally different internal architecture. And this does not change how you write code for React Native apps. In general, you still build your React components and stuff. It does definitely impact how certain packages work internally. And if you worked on such packages, that of course it had an impact there. And there was this transition phase. And now this latest Expo version is finally dropping the support for the legacy architecture. Hermes v1 is now available. Hermes is the what's it called? Essentially the rendering engine behind React Native. And I think there is this is it Amazon? I'm not sure. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Essentially, what this means is, or what the legacy architecture already meant, and Hermes too, it's all about, in the end, improving the performance of React Native applications. Because in the past, you had this bridge. You have to think of React Native as a thing on top of the native platform, if you want to call it like this. So one thing you have with React Native, unlike with Ionic, for example, if you use a React component in React Native, a text input, let's say, that actually gets compiled, translated to the actual underlying UI widget, the actual UI component for iOS and Android. With Ionic, on the other hand, you always had a web view. So it was essentially a website loaded in the native app, you could say. That's one thing. But the JavaScript code, the logic of your app, still runs in a JavaScript engine. And if it interacted with native platform features, it had to use a bridge to talk to the underlying platform, to the native platform in the end. And it's that part, or that's one of the parts that has been heavily optimized and rewritten so that it now works totally differently, synchronously, so that there is no blocking there anymore. So that's kind of the big picture here. It's all about performance improvements and making React Native apps faster. And Expo, building up on top of React Native, or wrapping React Native, so to say, therefore, of course, they had to adjust many of their internal libraries to this new architecture, because Expo, of course, has a lot of stuff built in, a lot of libraries you can use to get information about the battery and stuff like that. And they had to rewrite or adjust all that stuff. And that's why it took them a bit longer to adopt this new architecture and all that stuff. But yeah, they've been there already with earlier versions. Now they're just finally dropping support for the legacy architecture. So that's the gist of it here. But as I said, shouldn't affect most of the code you write. Expansion of AI tooling for Expo developers. MCP, new tools for CLI actions. So of course, one trend you can see not just, and agent skills, one trend you can see not just for Expo, but for many libraries, also for TanStack Start, if I remember correctly, is that they're more and more including instructions or documentation for AI models into the packages or into specific CLIs that ship together with the packages to make it easier for AI to discover how to correctly use a package, which makes a lot of sense because in the past and still to some degree today, what you as a developer have to do when working with AI is if there's something in the docs, in the TanStack docs, let's say, where you know this matters to AI, You could go there, copy the content if the page supported it, or manually copy it like this, of course, or take the URL if you're working with a coding agent that can fetch from the web, and you had to explicitly give it that information. And that still doesn't hurt today if you know that something matters, because then you know with certainty that the AI is aware of it and that can give you better results. But of course, what all these packages are doing nowadays is they're moving towards a world where they include the relevant documentation so that the AI can discover the up-to-date documentation for the version you have installed on its own without you pointing at it, which can, of course, make working with AI a bit more efficient. Yeah. Did I start the Flutter course from scratch? Not sure what you mean, but yeah, I built it from scratch back when I built it. Yeah. I don't fully get that. I think the next generation apps are all about implementing AI features. Yeah, I don't think every app gets better just because it uses AI features, but I do agree we will see many applications, and we already do see many applications integrating AI features. For some, it makes no sense. For others, it makes sense, yeah. Any suggestions for search engine optimization for React router-based navigation? Search engine optimization for React apps in the end comes down to server-side rendering. That's not the only thing, but it is one important thing. If you don't have server-side rendering on, if you're not using a framework like Next.js or TanStack Start, then if search engine optimization matters for you, you'll have a problem because search engines won't see a lot. So that is one important thing here. With React Router. If you're using React Router in framework mode, it should already do server-side rendering, and then the search engine optimization is, of course, all about having the right content, having, I don't know, blog posts, programmatic search engine optimization, where certain articles are generated automatically to optimize for keywords and all that stuff. What do you think Expo team trying to introduce new stuff on top of React Native so developers use Expo UI more? Obviously, the Expo team wants to sell their stuff, and I mean, that makes sense because we're all benefiting from the Expo SDK, so hopefully they earn money so that they can keep on doing what they want. But in my experience, Expo is really super flexible. You can use their own packages, their own services, but you don't have to. So yeah, I don't think they're forcing anything on us. Do you think upgrading to this SDK from like 52 is backward compatible? For the most part, it probably will. But in my experience, upgrading React Native apps always introduces some tiny problems you have to fix. My upcoming plans and courses. Yeah. Systems design, using AI efficiently, in general, helping developers get the most out of AI. That's kind of the topics I want to cover. If I'm starting from scratch and I want to learn the AI landscape or how to integrate AI into products, platforms, where do I start? If it's about integrating AI, I would just take a look at the OpenAI API documentation and not OpenAPI. And I would start building some applications on top of it. I would build your own chatbot, build your own PDF document analyzer. Be creative, build applications. It's always been about building stuff. That's the best way to learn anything. And if you want to learn how to integrate AI, then building dummy demo applications that use AI, an image analyzer, an image generator, whatever it is. Maybe you can even build some tools that are useful to you. That's a good way to learn more. So back to Expo and React Native. So yeah, we got new Expo SDK, got new Expo router version. Here's the Expo UI we were talking about. Expo UI is in the end a component set, a bit like shared CN, you could say. And actually, it's something I haven't worked with. So maybe that's something I want to do today. Oh, but it's about Jetpack Compose and Swift UI. No, I'm just a bit confused. I haven't used it. Yeah, it is in a React Native app. Okay, yeah, okay, got it. Yeah, so maybe we'll use some Expo UI stuff here just to see how it looks. I'm just not sure. This is for React Native, right? So yeah, I guess it is. Anyways. Anything else in there which seems super important? Alpha release of Expo widgets enables the creation of iOS home screen widgets and live activities. Yeah, that makes sense. That's good. Okay, yeah, so there's that. Is Next.js completely different from React? No, it's not completely different. It builds up on top of React. It's a framework building up on top of React that simplifies the process of building full stack applications. So yeah, you will have to learn something extra, but if you already know React, that shouldn't be too difficult, I think. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but if you had to bet on one of the big AI players, who is the safest bet from a business perspective? So you mean who will have the best future? Who will dominate in the future? I will say it changes from time to time, my opinion. Right now, I think Google is obviously well positioned because they have a lot of data, they have good models, and they have reach. They don't have the best models for programming right now, but that can also change in a couple of weeks or months. But they definitely have a lot of reach, and they definitely have a good and easy way of they can add AI to so many products. Today I read that they added to Google Maps in the US. They can add it to so many products. They have it in the search overview. I think they are well positioned. Claude, Anthropic is obviously well positioned in the enterprise space, in the programming space. They're having their issues with the Pentagon. We'll see how that ends, but they have a strong foothold there. Well, in OpenAI, they have ChatGPT. Everybody knows ChatGPT, and they have a very strong coding model with Codex and GPT 5.4 now. A couple of months ago, I would have said that OpenAI is maybe the company that's most endangered. But to be very honest, yeah, they're all well positioned, and it all depends on if they can continue pushing out good models, and if the money keeps on coming, because right now it's still such an intense market. It's all heavily subsidized. I mean, if you're using Codex or Claude Code, if you have a subscription there and you're using it heavily, they're not earning any money off you. As far as I know, it's hard to imagine they do. And the question is, will they be able to raise the prices, or will competition stay super intense? And then some companies may, of course, get into trouble if investors want to see returns. But it's hard to say. I don't think that will happen anytime soon. But that is obviously also when the bubble will burst, which does not mean that AI goes away. But I think there is a huge bubble, and it will very likely burst at some point in time. The technology, however, will stay where it is, or will become better. But yeah, there is that. GitHub team has removed premium models from GitHub Copilot student account. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of the thing, right? So they're heavily subsidizing stuff, and then at some point they have to start earning money or cut their losses. So I guess that's what they're doing here. Yeah, so I had a look at the Expo SDK here. Now I want to dive into Expo Router. And Expo Router, as I said before, is of course the navigation library by the Expo team. It's a file-based router as you have it in Next.js, for example. It builds up on React Navigation, which is another navigation library you can use for React Native. As far as I know, React Navigation is also maintained by the Expo team. But yeah. So we got Expo Router version 55, and I said it before, I'm not a huge fan of file-based routing in general, so Expo Router never really connected with me, but I'm happy to give it another try. What do we have in there? We have, it makes native UI a first-class part of routing, the new Stack API toolbars, let you build navigation UI. So I guess what that means is that they are translating those routing-related components to their native equivalents and use native navigations, which should lead to better performance. The new Stack API gives you declarative component level control, stack header, screen title, search bar. Okay. Native tabs. I mean, that's one advantage React Native has over Flutter, since the question was there earlier. Since the React Native components get translated to their raw native equivalents for iOS and Android, if those primitives change, you automatically get the new look when using React Native without having to wait for a big update. And the question is if that's important to you, because many apps have their own look anyways. They might not want the default iOS or Android look. But if you do want that default Android or iOS look, at least in parts of your app, that of course is an advantage. With Flutter, you always have to wait until they rebuild it. Yeah. It's quite similar to the Next.js folder structure. Yeah, I know. It's a general file-based routing thing, which I'm not a big fan of, but we'll give it another try. And speaking of that, let's play around a bit with React Native and Expo here. And for that, I have a new project here. It's an empty project. And actually, no, I'll not get in it. I'll create a new app in there. Maybe in the future, I also want a backend. So I'll add an apps folder. And in that apps folder, with BunX, I'll create a new Expo app. I'll quite quickly have to check the docs here. Dash template is what I want, and I want blank TypeScript because I want to start from scratch. So I'll have template blank TypeScript, and I want to build an app, and I'll not finish it today, I'm sorry, but I want to build an app where users have where you can pick a daily mission for the next week. So for the next week, I want to do 10 push-ups every day or something like that. So I'll name my app Daily Mission App. And let it set that up for me. Okay, and now with that, I got this set up. And if we take a brief look at it, yeah, got an app component with some text. And what I want to do, I want to run this not with the Expo Go app. Instead, I want to run that locally. I want a development build, and I don't want to build with EAS. I have Xcode installed. I have the Xcode command line tool installed. I have an iOS simulator set up. I'm not sure if I have Watchman, but I can install that. I had to set up my MacBook from scratch a couple of weeks ago, so I'll install it again. And thereafter, we'll run this command here. What would be a good project to start in order to learn the most of React Native? A good project to learn most of React Native. What I like to build in my courses is a favorite places app where you can basically take a photo of a favorite place, tag it on a map and stuff like that. Because in there you have obviously camera use, you have Google Maps integration, you have normal input fields like a title, a description, stuff like that. And you can, of course, add more and more features to such an app. You can literally simply have a look at the official reference of Expo, for example, and see which device features you can use. And you can, for each feature, you can think, oh, can I integrate this into my app? And I think that's a good way of tackling this. Okay, so that's done. Whoops. With that, I'll install the Expo Dev client, and thereafter I can run the app like this. And the idea here is that normally with Expo, regarding the podcast, by the way, yeah, there's an error, I'll have to fix that. I have kind of like my YouTube channel. It's not interviews if you're looking for that, but that is where I share my opinion on lots of tech stuff. It's youtube.com/Maximilian-Schwarzmüller. It's a lot about AI, obviously, these days. But yeah, it's this channel here if you're watching it on YouTube, this live stream. So yeah, that may be interesting. Project root directory not found. Oh yeah, I need to go in there and run it in here. Okay. And now I can try running this on iOS. We'll see if that works. And I'm doing that because I don't want to use the Expo Go app. So in case you don't know, by default, if you're getting started with Expo, if you spin up a basic app and you start it, it asks you to install an extra app on your device or on your simulator. And that's an app that has a lot of features provided by Expo built in to make it easy to quickly preview the app you're building. But if you want to be able to use all the features Expo has to offer, you can't use that because some features are not supported by that Expo Go app because they can't be supported, like push notifications. In that case, you have to eject out of that app mode, this preview app mode, and you have to create a so-called development build. And there are two ways of doing that. You could use the service offered by Expo. I don't even know if you can use it for free or if you have to pay, but you will need an account with them. But the alternative, what I'm doing here, is you can go through a couple of setup steps and thereafter you can build the app locally on your system. You need to have Xcode installed on macOS to build an iOS app, but then you can do that. And for Android, you need to have, I think, Android Studio installed. But of course, you can check Android emulator. Yeah, you need to go through these steps, but it's well documented. And if you're too lazy, you could also grab a link here and point it at your AI agent or give it your AI agent, and they can probably figure it out too. Manuel is okay. Yeah, he's okay. We just don't have a podcast together, but he's okay. And he recently created a new course, our N8N course. That was created by Manuel. So yeah, he's okay. He's still there. Are you planning to make a complete course where you will cover all we need to master usage of AI from scratch? Yeah, that's 100% a course I would love to do. Okay, so let's see. This is starting up here on my simulator, my iOS simulator. And looking good. Looking good. So that's the React Native app up and running now. So, first things first, what I want to do here, I quickly want to create oh, we already had a repo in there. Let me fix that. Okay. Okay, so get that. And as I said, what I want to build is an app where we can pick daily missions. So I want a couple of screens in the app. And this is a bit on the fly here. Normally I would plan that out in more detail. But in the end, the app I want to build is like a daily mission app. Okay, that's what I want to build here. And the idea is that you have a screen, you have a screen in the app where you can pick from predefined missions, let's say. So that could be something like 10 push-ups every day, stuff like that. You will probably also be able to define your own missions, and you will have your today screen, which is your default home screen, where you see the currently active mission and what you still have to do today, and where you can kind of complete the mission for the day to mark it as completed. So I did my 10 push-ups and whatever. That's the core. There probably should be more screens, but yeah, I'm just getting started here. I want to have tabs at the bottom. So because I also want to see the different Expo router features in action. So yeah, I have my tabs here. That's something I want to have so that I can go. So here in this tab, I would be on the home screen, and then here in this tab, I would be on the other screen, on the marketplace screen, the library screen, so to say. Can I make an iOS app using Windows and React Native? No, you need Xcode, and that only exists on macOS. I have a podcast. Yeah, I mean, many of the videos I publish on my YouTube channel, many of those videos also are published as a podcast, and it's called the Code and Curiosity podcast, and you find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So yeah, if you want to listen to it as a podcast, I do publish videos, episodes where it makes sense to be published as an audio only episode. I do publish them as podcast episodes, yeah. Okay, the sign patterns. Yeah, also an interesting course. Just got to start somewhere. So for now, it's using AI efficiently and systems design. I'll probably focus on, but yeah, I mean, this is all evolving so quickly that this all changes all the time, and therefore it's hard to say what I'll do exactly in a week or so. So what I want to do here, of course, is use some AI. I set up the project. Now I want to work on the project. And if you watched my video today, you know I like the Pi coding agent a lot. I also like Claude Code and Codex, don't get me wrong. But here I'll use Pi to show it. It's an agent I installed. You got a terminal user interface like with all these agents. I'm using it with my Codex subscription, using GPT 5.4 and using extra high reasoning here. And I'll describe the app I want to build. So I'll say we're building a daily mission app where users can pick a new daily mission each week. Missions are something like do 10 push-ups every day, or say something nice to another person every day. It's also not necessarily every day. Some missions could have an action that only is due on some days, e.g. only on Wednesday and Friday. New missions can be started at any time, and users can then decide if they they can at any time, and users can also cancel at any time. So I'm describing the app here. For one, because I'm kind of making this up on the fly here, so that helps me clarify what I want to build. And I then also want AI to generate a specification file for me, which I can then use for future iterations with AI. Though, to be honest, if this were a totally serious project, and I will maybe turn it into a serious one, but normally I would start this with a bit more preparation, but here I'll kind of do it on the fly. So we'll see how good the quality is thereafter. We'll eventually also need a backend, but for now we'll only build a dummy front-end mobile app. We're doing that with Expo plus React Native plus TypeScript already set up in the apps folder. For state management, we want to use Zustand, which is a library I like a lot. For styling, we use native styles, or we use standard style sheets styles. No native wind, I don't want to use that, not because it's bad, I just don't want to use it. For navigation, routing, we'll use Expo Router. Check their docs to have the latest state. Also see the announcement post about v55. And what I'll do is I'll grab that link here to that blog and put it in there so that the agent can take a look at it. So that's that. I already set the app up to have a local dev build, and we're using Bun for package installation, etc., e.g. Bun add or Bun x expo install. We'll need screens for letting users pick new missions, a mission library, their currently active mission on the home screen, and maybe more in the future. Initially, it's these two. Each mission has a title, a description, a schedule, see above, where I described that it may be active every day and so on, and an image. For now, we store images locally in this app. In general, for now, we'll work with some local dummy data, hard code it into our source code files. In the future, we will probably load it from a backend. So what I'll say here, hello. What I'll say here is, do you have any questions about this app? Anything I should consider to create a thorough spec MD file which describes the app? So now I sent that to the AI and I'll see what it has to say to that. And that's kind of the process, or part of the process I like when planning something with AI, going back and forth, getting some feedback. Typically, as I said, I'm a bit more detailed initially, but yeah, to not bore you with me typing for an eternity here, that's what I'll do. Which subscription would you suggest to use for learning AI? Copilot, Claude? Really doesn't matter, I would say. For learning or in general, they are all decent. I think GitHub Copilot subscriptions are a bit cheaper, if I'm not wrong. Claude Code is maybe the worst because you pretty much need the expensive one because you run out of limits quickly with the cheaper one. So I would probably go for Codex alternatively, because they are, especially right now until April the 2nd, the cheap one, the $20 one, gets you very far. And with Codex, it's your ChatGPT subscription. So if you get the subscription, you don't just pay for Codex, but you also have ChatGPT Plus, which also gives you access to more models and so on. Since you did a local build, could you maybe add push notifications? I'd love to, but I'll be honest, probably not today because I gotta leave in 40 minutes. So we'll probably not get around to push notifications because that would also mean we need a backend. I mean, we could use local push notifications in the app, but probably not, to be honest. But I mean, it's something I wanted to do before. Maybe I'll continue working on this app from time to time in other live streams, and then we'll get to push notifications at some point for sure. Okay, so the AI came back to me with some questions. Can a user have only one active mission at a time or multiple? Does pick a new mission mean a recommendation or a hard product rule? When started, does a mission run indefinitely? Okay, so yeah, that's a lot. Boy, there's a lot of questions. Users can pick one mission at a time. They can cancel and replace it anytime, but they can't have multiple simultaneous missions. Okay, well, what else? Does a mission run indefinitely? Can a user restart? Okay, yeah, so missions run indefinitely until replaced, let's say. If they got no mission, the home screen asks them to pick one because the app is kind of meaningless without one. What program is this that I'm using? So this is the Pi coding editor, coding agent. So this is Visual Studio Code, and in there I got the terminal, and I'm using the Pi coding agent. And yeah, now I'm working my way through these answers, these questions. Can a user restart? Users can restart missions anytime. They can also pick a mission they already completed in the past. That's not very comfortable scrolling up like this. That's what I meant. If you were a bit more detailed up front, that can help. And also what I do often is I don't do that necessarily here in the terminal. I may also be doing it in ChatGPT or other tools like this. I just wanted to show the Pi coding agent, which is really great. But of course, scrolling up and down like this is a bit annoying. But yeah, it is what it is. What schedule types are supported every day? Yeah, I mean, I did already answer this, I guess, in my initial requirement. If a mission is due only on Wednesday and Friday, not due today. Whoops. Okay. We have flexible scheduling as described initially. On days where there's nothing to do, we tell users that there is nothing to do. Users can also tweak title, description, or schedule. Our pre-built missions are effectively templates that are then cloned for the user and can be adjusted by them. So I'll probably not answer all these questions. I'll probably tell AI to pick some reasonable defaults because, yeah, I mean, there are some questions which are really like nitpicking, I guess. Can users undo a completion for a day? Can they mark tasks complete retroactively? Users can complete past days if they missed them. And yes, they can undo completion. Is completion just binary? Do you want to track streaks? Completion is binary for now. No streaks or analytics in V1. Mission library, is the library just a simple list, or do you want categories for filters? For now, the mission library is simply a list. Should user state persist across app restarts? Yes, we must persist data between app restarts. Use SQLite on the device because that is available for both iOS and Android. Future backend compatibility. Yeah, we don't have to worry about that. Yeah, we don't have to worry about backwards backends right now. We don't have to worry about image optimizations, etc. I'll provide standardized optimized images. Yeah, like this. Okay. Do you have a video on how to use this program? I released a video today, but not so much on how to use it, more as an overview of why I like it. So today I released a video on my channel, the Pi Coding Agent, where I walk you through it essentially. The great thing about it is that it's quite minimal. So I guess that's all I want to answer for these main areas here. Well, what does it say here? Yeah, I just want to clarify, we want to keep this initial version very, very simple. We'll have a small selection of pre-built missions, and that will be all for the start. Based on these details, write me a spec.md file. Again, you could be more detailed here. I don't want to bore you, and it's just like a glimpse at how you could tackle this. In general, planning, of course, helps. Having a spec file helps. And that's kind of what I'm trying here, what I'm trying to do here. So now it's kind of analyzing the app here, I guess, and then it should give me a spec.md file, which kind of describes what we want to build. And this spec.md file is quite helpful when working with AI, in my experience, because AI, as I mentioned way earlier in this stream, AI always just sees a part of your project. I mean, right now it's such a simple project. It could, of course, in theory, take a look at all the files in there, but it has no idea. When you start a new session, it has no idea of what's in your project. And if you have like a spec.md file where you describe what your project is about, which tech stack you're using, that can be another useful building block that gives the AI extra context about what you want to build, about the design decisions you made in the past, so that you don't constantly have to repeat yourself and remind the AI about what you're building. Another thing I want to do here, I'll add an agents.md file, and I know there are studies that say that these files are not useful, but in my opinion, I have good experiences with them. So I'll copy in some standard rules I like in my projects, where I essentially tell the AI to run certain commands whenever it implemented a check, that it should add useful tests and run the tests, that I want big refactors, no quick and dirty hacks. I repeat that it shouldn't rush, that it does need to support legacy stuff, because especially Codex, the OpenAI models, they love to just make sure that nothing ever breaks. And I want stuff to break when I'm actively working on it right now. So yeah, that's what I like to add here as an agents.md file. And I will also go into my app here, and I will add two dependencies, OX format and OX-lint, which are relatively new packages for formatting and linting by the White Zero team. I like them a lot. And I will add a format script here, which uses OX format just like this, and a lint script like that. And these are the scripts I'm mentioning here, format and lint. And also a type check script where we run TypeScript. Or actually, yeah, TypeScript is installed. Okay, so that's that. Let's see. It's still working on that spec.md file, so let's wait for that to finish. I'm going to be cautious asking the agent to ask me 100 questions. Yeah, I mean, especially GPT 5.4 is quite chatty, and if you run it in extra high reasoning mode, in my experience, it's even chattier. So, yeah, you might want to steer that a bit, but it also often is enough to answer the most important questions. Just filtering out the important ones can be annoying. Anyways, looks like it's done. It gave me a spec.md file, and let's quickly see what it wrote. It's rather long, I will say, but again, GPT 5.4 loves to be thorough. But it describes the app here, and that looks all right. Core product, can exactly one active, cancel, replace. I mean, that's the important part. All that here at the beginning, where we describe the app and the constraints. Can add it. Scheduling. Completion rules, goals. Non-goals. That looks okay. Data model. Source, template, title, description, schedule, image, asset. Yeah. Primary destinations, home, missions, missions editor. I mean, that should probably be the mission ID here, I guess, if we're editing a specific mission. And that should be a modal. So tweaking the spec a little bit here. Home screen actions, edit, cancel, replace. Yeah, that's fine. Mission lifecycle, opens app, replace. Lots of details here. Recommended SQLite tables. Can store, okay, yeah, storing that as JSON makes sense, I guess. We could normalize this and have multiple tables, but I don't care too much about that right now. Zustand store. So it's really detailed about the code or parts of the code we want to have. But in general, that looks fine, I would say. So what I'll do now is start a new session. And now I want to start implementing this. So I can say based on @specmd. Actually, what I'll do is I'll restart this to make sure my agents.md file gets picked up. So based on specmd, set up the basic routes we need using the latest version of Expo router. Check their docs to make sure you're using the latest syntax version. Also consider this blog post about the most recent version. Again, sharing that blog post I shared earlier already, because again, using AI is all about providing the right context, and I want it to get this right. We need tabs for navigating between home and mission library. Editing a mission should open a modal route. I actually also want a mission detail route that opens up when the user taps a mission in the library. Stack route, push a new screen. Also update specmd to reflect this decision. And yeah, we could definitely also set this up manually, but these days I am indeed working a lot with AI, and that's kind of the flow I'm using there, which I want to show you. So I'm doing it here too. Okay, so that should hopefully help the AI set up the routes, make a detailed plan first after doing your research, then share that plan with me. Pi does not have a plan mode like Codex, for example, has it. You could add one with an extension, but you can also just tell it, and then in my experience that works pretty well, and it doesn't suddenly start implementing or stuff like that. And now off it goes. And you could work on another feature. We could spin up a parallel agent if we had the backend already. If we wanted that, we could have another agent work on the backend here, for example. That could be pretty efficient. And that's then where you can leverage AI to be more productive, of course. So yeah. But here, I'm not sure. Well, I guess we could have a second agent. We could say we're building spec. Please install Zustand. Latest version. Check their docs for correct usage. And set up the state as described in specmd. Do nothing else, because I don't want it to try to use that state in my routes, because the routes, of course, are not set up yet. Do your research first, then make a detailed plan and show it to me. So now we can run that in parallel, and now I got two agents working on two different tasks. And of course, that is what you want to try. Now you can also, of course, run agents in parallel on tasks that potentially overlap by using Git work trees or by checking out this project in different folders, in different branches. I personally don't do that too often, sometimes, but typically I try to just have different agents work on different tasks that don't overlap too much. For me, that works quite well. And that I'm using Pi here and not Claude Code or Codex is really just due to the reason that I've used Pi a lot over the last 2 weeks or so. And yeah, there you could, of course, do the same with Codex, with Claude Code, with whatever you like, and that would work pretty well too. So that is that. And we'll then see if AI gives us good code, if it spits out something useful. Again, normally I would spend a bit more time on the planning, but I want to find a nice balance here. So we'll see what we get. And what I really like about all these agents nowadays, to be honest, how smart they are, or to be precise, how good they follow instructions. So I got a bunch of skills set up, for example, where I tell the AI how to do code research. So here, the code research skill, it read that skill, it correctly activated that skill here for this task. And in that skill, I tell it how to browse the docs, how to use MCPs. Pi doesn't have MCP support, but it can use the MC Porter tool by Peter Steinberger, which makes MCPs usable as a CLI. So it did that somewhere here. It's using the Deep Wiki MCP, which, in case you don't know, by the way, is a really useful tool. Deep Wiki. If you want to learn more about Expo, let's say, you can search for it here, or you can just paste in the GitHub URL. And of course now, because I'm showing this, it's super slow. Normally it's faster. So let's say you have a GitHub URL, like the Expo one here. You can paste that in here, and that gives you a documentation for that GitHub repository. So it derives this documentation with AI based on the repository, and you can chat about it and ask your questions. And they also offer an MCP server, which Pi is using here because I told it to do that in my code research skill to learn more about, what is it? Do I see that here? I don't see, about some package, about the Zustand package probably here. And it's using that for its research. This is not Claude Code ID. This is Visual Studio Code, and I'm just running the Pi coding agent in the built-in terminal. And of course, I could use a normal terminal. It doesn't have to be inside of Visual Studio Code. I just like to look at the files from time to time. I like to be able to have my changes preview here. Yeah, that's the reason. And yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Evan Starr. I'm doing good. I hope you're doing good too. And yeah, so that's still working, still trying to figure stuff out. And it's always interesting to see if it comes to good conclusions or not. But that's why I'm asking it to make a plan first and show me that plan so that I have some control over it. Because if it goes to work right away, I can, of course, also tell it to change parts of the code, but I rather not have it write bad code in the first place. So that's why I like this approach more. Yeah, trying to adapt working with agents is the best way, 100%. It's a technology that's here to stay, and it can make you more productive. And yeah, so trying to get the most out of them is a good strategy, I think. Whilst at the same time not blindly trusting them for everything, of course. But yeah, we've been there before. Now, I could have also switched to less reasoning effort here, by the way, because for one, with extra high, I of course burn more tokens. And these tasks probably would work well with medium or high reasoning too. And if you're not just burning more tokens here with that set to extra high, it also takes longer because it thinks way more. I mean, you see all these thinking blocks here, right? That's all thinking. And it thinks and thinks and thinks, and that takes time. So my bad on using extra high reasoning here, but maybe that means we get an extra good response. We'll see. We'll see. But I hope it's done with at least one of these tasks soon so that we can move on. Obviously, I could spin up another agent here. No, one thing I can do, indeed, here in the assets folder, I could add my missions, my mission images, for example. Or actually, I have my images, and in there my mission images like this. And I do have, excuse me, I have some images prepared already, like a 10-minute walk image here. And yes, this is AI generated. Or what else do I have? I had another one. Here. One other here, my push-ups. So I got 2 images which I can then use for my missions. So now it looks like one of these agents is done. Or maybe both. Let's see. No, this one is still working, but this one is done. So let's see what that's the Zustand, the state management one. Latest version. Let's quickly check if that's correct. .0.11. So that is correct. Blah blah blah. Official guidance. Single store. Sources detailed plan. Add the library with bun add. That is correct. Create types. Mission. Add hard-coded mission template. Utils for date handling and scheduling. Okay. Local. Oh, by the way, one thing I did not add to this project, which I totally forgot, which I normally would like to add, is extra skills for working with React and React Native. I'll do this soon. But for now, I guess it can complete this task without me doing it. So that should work, I guess. Build one Zustand store. Add the required actions. Start mission from template. Update, cancel, replace, toggle completion. Load for the home screen, I guess. Add derived helpers. Keep SQLite ready boundaries without implementing SQLite now. Because I asked for Zustand only, I won't add SQLite now in this pass. Actually, I wanted to add that, so I'll clarify that. Add proper tests. Okay. Actually, do add SQLite already. And for the testing, I'll spin up another agent actually. And I'll say in this project, add proper unit testing for the React Native Expo app in the apps folder. Use vtest. Research. Take a look at their docs and do some research on React Native Expo unit testing and appropriate best practices before setting up anything. Share your findings and a plan before you proceed. Because actually I want to have tests set up before we work on the other tasks. So I'm telling it here with a rather short prompt, could be a bit more detailed, but I'm telling it here that it should set up testing. And whilst it's doing that, I also want to add some skills. Agent skills are really useful, and there are, of course, specific skills you could consider using for React and I guess also React Native. So we have the official Vercel skills here, which are probably taking a look at. We can take a look at these React Native practices here. And there are also React skills, the Vercel React best practices. So we have the Vercel React Native skills. We have the Vercel React best practices skills and React Native best practices. I don't want to install skills by someone I don't know. I would have to audit that first, because skills can be a security problem because they can effectively lead to a prompt injection. So I will install the other skills here, the React best practices and the React Native skills here. And the way to do that is to simply run this command here. Just that I will use bunx because it's a bit faster. And then that asks me for which coding agents I want to install this. And the good thing is Pi, just like Codex, they support this .agents folder. So I don't have to select any agents here. If you were using Claude Code, you would have to select that because they're using their own format. They're basically the Apple of coding agents. But I don't need to select anything here because the universal approach will work. So I'll just hit enter. For this project, symlink, proceed with installation. And I'll do the same here for the React Native skills. Same logic as before. Universal is fine. Project symlink, yes. And that added this agents folder here with some extra skills these agents here can load and use. And with that, I actually will add a commit, added agent skills, added agents MD. Okay, and now we can continue once the testing is set up, actually. But I can already take a look at the plan here for the routes, because that's also done. The app currently does not use Expo Router yet. Install Expo Router. Native tabs, new, but still explicitly marked alpha unstable. So I guess we'll use the old ones for now then, because I don't want the app to break just because of that. I plan to use stable tabs. That makes sense. So that's the layout, apps, missions, template ID, mission editor, mission detail screen pushed on stack. That's the modal route, the mission editor. Convert the app to Expo Router, install the Expo Router dependency, Expo Router entry, update the app.json file, create a root router layout as a wrapper, as a shell essentially, create a tab shell for the tab specific routes, so for the tabs at the bottom, of course. Mission stack, for the missions part, we have a stack layout where we can push a route on top of a route because I want to have the detail screens. Use current Expo Router patterns where they make sense. So I guess that all looks pretty good. Yeah, looks good. Yeah, one note about the skills here in the chat. The thing with this skills from Vercel, for example, if you work on a project that's using old version of practices for React, you got problem in the task that you give to the agents. And other thing is I have some specific rules. Yeah, so you don't have to use these skills, of course, from the skills library from skills.sh. And indeed, what I do in many of my projects, I set up my own very specific instructions and skills for React and React Native. I just was a bit too lazy to copy them over here. And they also were not for a React Native app. But yeah, obviously, it's way better to take the time to initially create a set of skills which you can then reuse, where you have exactly the patterns and approaches you want to use, than to rely on such a library all the time. But of course, if you're working with a certain technology where you don't have your own skills, where you don't have your own opinions, where you don't want to spend some time crafting your own skills, then this skills.sh repository can of course be very useful. That's my thought on that. So, okay, the route thing looks good here. It's still researching how to set up testing, so we'll give it some time here. But I guess we can already have it work on the routes. So go ahead and implement this is my next task here. And with that, it should create these routes. And then the next step is to add the tests. And then the next step thereafter is to set up the state management. So still don't write any code, but update your plan to include SQLite and how to set this up in this project. Because I can already have it work on a new plan, even though we're not ready to implement it yet. And here it's doing a bunch of stuff. Trying out stuff, I guess. Yeah, we'll see if that leads somewhere. I just noticed that I'm not sure if vtest is actually a good choice for React Native. I picked it automatically because I'm using it in all my web apps. But I don't know if that's a good choice here. So actually, I guess what I'll do, it's a bit annoying, but I'll stop that. I'll tell it that I want to add testing, but I don't tell it that I want to use vtest. But instead, we have this doc, Expo testing, unit testing with jest, and for Expo router. I want all of that. Consider these docs. And I'll give it the explicit link to the React Native testing docs, to the unit testing with jest docs here, because that was a little mistake because I didn't do my research before. Yeah, I don't want to force it to use vtest if that is just not really supported or doesn't work that well. So yeah, therefore I'll restart this task. Here it's still researching, here it's still implementing. Java future scope. Not sure what you mean. You mean if Java has a future? The answer to that definitely is yes. But I personally have nothing to do with Java. The last line of Java code I wrote is probably like 15 years ago. So yeah, I don't have a lot to say about Java, but it runs so much of enterprise software and the web. It's not going anywhere, if that is the question. Okay, now I'm running into the problem that I have to leave rather soon and my agents are still working. So yeah, I guess I'll wait until they are done. And I at least want to see the routes in action. And I will probably continue this app in the future. But for now, yeah, we'll continue here. I'm sad that hand coding is dead. Yeah. I 100% agree. I said it earlier in the stream. I'm one of those developers. I liked writing code by hand. I liked the flow state you could enter there. And yes, problem solving was always important. And yes, it was always about building something. But yes, I liked the part of writing code by hand. And I'm also sad that this is no longer the way to go, as it seems. And yeah, I mean, it's easy to trick yourself into using an agent when you would have been equally fast when writing the code by hand. But here, where I'm working on 3 features at the same time, I think it's hard to argue that writing the same code by hand would be equally fast. So yeah, but I miss it too. Okay, so I got an updated plan here. We'll use Expo SQLite. Set up SQLite as an explicit persistence layer with migrations, wall mode. Create a SQLite schema with constraints based on what we had in the spec file. Add a repository layer between two. Does Zustand have some official SQLite wrapper or anything like that? No, it doesn't look like it. I mean, yeah, no, we'll let it do its thing here. You could argue if we really need Zustand. But I'll let it integrate it here. Yeah, testing is about to be added. I'll inform it once we're done. So let's see, it's still researching the testing stuff, still implementing the routing stuff. I completed your Golang Udemy course last year. It was so amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm super happy you liked the course and that it was helpful. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. What if token prices would go higher and much expensive? Yeah, I mean, I think that will happen, right? I think we'll see token prices go up eventually. And then I mean, it's pretty clear right now they're fighting for market share and they are getting us developers hooked. And then the big question is, what are we willing to pay when token prices go up? It will be interesting to see how that plays out. And maybe some people will have to go back to writing more code by hand because suddenly you have to optimize for cost. So that will be interesting. Where do LLMs get their knowledge from the future if people stop asking questions and posting answers? Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. It's hard for me to tell how that will look like. Maybe with stuff like skills and so on, we can work around knowledge gaps. I don't know, but I also see a problem where this was all trained on decades of knowledge. And now suddenly a lot of the knowledge that exists or that gets generated right now is AI generated. So based on what they already know, or is protected behind paywalls. So it's hard for me to tell if this data problem will be a problem in the future or not. But it is a problem for sure, which I also see. Now, one thing I will say here is I gotta go right now, actually. So I'll wait for these agents to finish. Token volume is more interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, you're 100% right in optimizing for volume. But that's what I also mean when I say maybe we'll have to write more code by hand again, because that also optimizes for volume, of course. But then on the other hand, like I said it before, this extra high reasoning mode, which you don't have to use for everything, which you can afford to use a lot right now, you might not want to use that all the time because that's a lot of tokens you're burning. Okay, so this is done. Normally I would continue here, but since I gotta go, I won't. Instead, I'll just wait for this agent to finish up here. And I wanna see if my app works. So here, I'll restart my iOS app because I think it's already done writing the code for the routes. It's just updating the spec.md file as I see it. So we'll see if that works. So yeah, I hope it works. Would be a nice way to end the stream, but I gotta go anyways. So let's see. Found a type error. Yeah, maybe it won't build if it's finding type errors here. But let's see. Juniors should write mostly by hand. I do agree that learning the concepts matters a lot. I'm not sure if that means you should write mostly by hand, but you should definitely not mostly generate with AI. I totally agree on that. Always exciting after having a lot of changes, if it will build, if it will run. And here it's still finding and fixing type errors, as it seems. And starting the app takes a while because a lot of new native packages were installed and it needs to build all these, it needs to build or compile the app, so to say. That's just a one-time process whenever you install something new, but it takes a while, as you can see. But doesn't matter too much because since there are still issues here anyways, it did add tests here already. Okay, so it added tests here. I would have to consider that in my other task, which I wanted to use. Normally I set up testing first. To be honest, I forgot here. So now it added some tests here already. So I would have to tweak my testing agent and tell it, oh, tests are already set up. You might want to consider that and check if it's set up correctly. But I don't care too much about it here. I just want to see if it works, if it runs here. But a cleanup pass would be appropriate for sure. So normally I would say something like, actually tests already are set up, but please check the current setup if it's in line with your suggested setup. Oh no, that's the wrong chat. I would send this here. Don't change anything. Just check and update your plan if needed. So we could do something like this. Here it's still building. We all seem to experience some boredom waiting AI to slop its way out of errors. Yeah, that's the time where you can spend on TikTok then, right? Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. I liked the old flow of writing code. You can get into kind of a flow with AI agents too, but we probably, I still have to adapt to that, to put it like this. As a front-ender, how much should you know about Vite configs, bundlers? You don't need to know. Excuse me, you don't need to know a lot about that in my experience. I don't know a lot about that necessarily, and it's not like I feel like I'm missing a bunch here. So, oh, I pressed reload too early. So yeah, you don't need that knowledge, I would say, unless of course you're specifically responsible for setting up your projects in your team, but other than that, not. And an error. Ba-bum. Yeah. Looks like a styling error. But unfortunately, as I said, and that's some display error I sometimes get in Visual Studio Code. As I said, unfortunately, I have to go. Can't wait for this all to finish and fix this error. I would have hoped we could have ended this with a properly working app, but nope. Unfortunately not, which kind of shows that the anyway, I'll probably continue working on this in future streams. I hope you liked today's stream. Also the discussion at the beginning. If you missed the beginning, if you missed parts of the stream, it will stay online on YouTube. And I wish you all the best. Have a great day, evening, morning, whatever it is for you. And maybe I see you in future streams or courses or whatever. And thank you all for joining. Bye-bye.